Hey guys, Dave here. Want to do a quick little app review here of the app and using the screen recording function, Darkr. And why is it called DAKR? Because we're in 2017 and no one knows how to spell anymore. Well, I understand it's Wayne too. You can't copyright the term Darkr spelled correctly, so you have to use things like removing E's. I imagine if Mark started Tiny Shutter, it would be spelled TYNSHR instead of correctly Tiny Shutter. So let's get Darkr started here. And Darkr is a black and white app. So normally you would start off, there we go, with the kind of image there. Now, this is a free app that if you want to pay more money, you can get more features, which is nice because all the editing's pretty much there, and I kind of like to use the own cameras, either the built-in camera or Camera Plus for stability. So you can import images here, but if you wanted to do it like a large format or medium format, you would have to pay money for that. Doing it like a small format, you can just click here, and it literally looks like a small format camera, which your viewfinder kind of stinks, and unlike an old-fashioned viewfinder where you actually put your face up to the camera, you can actually work on it there versus here where it's kind of just like, don't like it. So I'm just going to go to the darkroom itself. And then you just import your images here. Now, it says there's currently no negatives here, and there's ones I've worked on before. So if you click on the upper right here, where the different rainbow image there, you can pick your photos, and you import them as negatives. So that's why they're all kind of weird black and white here. And this only outputs black and white photos. So and there's one I selected already. Waiting. There we go. As a favorite that I want to work on here, that was this image here. Now this is me holding an apple. So again, this puts out black and white images, and it's trying to replicate a dark room, therefore the name Darkr there. So if we select that, there we go. And so it's giving you text strips below on the bottom there that you can see the different time to process. You can tap on and select it, and if you want to see what the entire image looked like at 34, you can hold it down there, or if you want to go a little darker, or if you want to go a little less exposure, and I think that's kind of like a dull. I'm more for the popping image there, so I kind of like that. Or to 34. If you even want to go longer times, you can kind of flick up and down. Notice that as I'm going up here, we're going from 24 to 32 seconds. And if I'm flipping down, you can see what I circled going up because we're getting more and more. So if I try to 40 here, that's really dramatic. But in my mind, if you look at my hand, it's almost too dark versus that's even borderline. That's a little bit better. My thumb's a little. Of course, this is very subjective, and you can make adjustments later on. So I'm just trying to get it nice where it's not, let's say, over dark. Like the apple there, I don't particularly like over dark, but I do like that there. So we want to do that. So, and then the next thing to work on is the contrast, which you swipe from left to right. If you look on the upper right, there's the filter. I originally thought it was 2 with like an arrow, but after a while it took me, hey, that's 2.5. So it's kind of, you can see the contrast there for the different ones, going with a much harder contrast. So if you wanted to really contrast it out there, or if you want to go a little bit less, or a little bit less here. Now, subjective again, I either think between that and that one. I'm going to go for that one right there. So once you get that all set up, you can click done here and you get your developed photo. But you notice how my thumb's here a little bit of a a bright spot there. There's not overly a lot of darker areas, but that thumb's a little on the brighter side. I want to keep the light on the apple. I kind of like that, but my thumb looks a little too much. So you have either you can do a blur down below, which we can just give that a try here. I'm not going to do much on it because it's kind of makes it all kind of. You can mask it so you can only blur like parts of it. So if I wanted to, let's say here, and then remove the blur here. So if I want to make sure it really looked like my hand was really focused compared to everything else. Now I'm going to leave whatever review to people who actually had experience, which I do not have experience here in an actual darkroom. I've never actually got in and smelled the developer and did actually work like that. So I don't know how this relates to actually doing. Okay, actually I kind of like that blur, so adding a little blur there. Let's see what the difference is. Let's go back to here. Still not liking it, so yeah, okay, that worked out good like that. And the nice thing is if you were like, well, you know what, I don't understand what this dodge and burn mean. There is a nice little question mark for everything. And it talks you through really nicely in terms of, okay, this is dodging, and this is how it would, how they would show on doing it with a manual actual piece of film, and how the different masking and areas work here. Again, I don't notice anything that's overly dark, but burn allows us to work on these over bright areas here. Again, it gives you a nice little tutorial about how a burn actually works physically. And here you can see about removing the mask and adding more light to it. So if I want to do that, we have the mask here, and it's like, okay, that's the area that's a little too light. So if we do that, you can notice that it took a little bit of the lightness off there. Okay, and okay, so it made the thumb, instead of this giant white image there, it made it a little bit better here. So see here, let's try, not necessarily a gradient, but let's cut that off. Okay, so let's do that. And let's say I'm pretty happy with how the image turned out here. So I can either, you see where it says shop down below, so let's say I wanted to actually unlock things, like unlocking $3 is not horrible. Again, this is a free app, so $3 additional to do a lot of the additional things, including the film emulsion. You can try, oh, that's nice, everything free for an hour, but don't necessarily want to do that. Edit layers, which is really nice if you're used to all this. Again, notice it's not really obsessing on it, where you can just get it if you need it. I'm going to save the image here. So it did save the image. Now, this is one thing that's a little confusing. You're thinking, oh, it saved the image, and you go to your camera roll, and it's not there. Because if you go to the image by backing out and going to your thing, this is where you can actually share it. So, this is where you actually save it to your camera roll. So the image is shared, but this is where you save it, where you actually have access to it, to either Facebook, you can see Twitter, Instagram, all Google+, Flickr, again, we hate our E's apparently, Tumblr, we hate our E's. I'd like to, of course, do things to the camera roll, that way I can have a lot more control over how things are done. Just save that there to the camera roll, so let's go to the camera roll here. And yes, I do have a few apps here. And there we go. So we have our camera roll and we have our image there. Now if I scroll up here, there we go. And if I scroll up, and there's the original image. Again, subjective things being better. It is different. It is a nice black and white image. So, if you're more of a black and white fan, and when I've compared this to actually trying to do these type of images in Instagram or in not Instagram, in Snapseed or in Light, this gives it honestly, it feels, I hate to say more real since we're all doing digital image manipulation, but it feels not as manipulative and it feels more like a real black and white film would. You don't have the harshness, if you will. I mean, unless you want to do it with the harder contrast, but it gives you give it a nice softer feel to it. Hope everyone kind of liked this little thing of Darkr. I think it's worth giving a try. It's not a quick image, obviously. After playing with it a little bit more, you may be a little bit quicker with it, know which particular ones you particularly like or don't, but a lot of it's based on how the original image was taken. So again, if you want to try something different with a little black and white photography, again, it's free, which is also nice. Give it a try and try to explore a little bit, and especially if you're in terms of image and manipulation like me, were purely digital and did not have experience with an actual darkroom. It gives you a nice little tutorial. It's kind of now again, no experience with me, so I can't say, oh yes, obviously that's how we used to do it in the old days. Not that I'm not of the age. I know people who did film developing in school, but I just wasn't into it and I just didn't do it. But it's a nice little history lesson, gives you a chance to give it a try and do a little black and white photography there. Give it a try. Hope you guys enjoy.